What is up? What is going on, everybody? It has been a minute. I am back from vacation. I am back with another video. It is going to be the Seattle Seahawks post-game recap. Your first place Seattle Seahawks post-game recap as they defeat the Cleveland Browns today, 24-20 to improve to 5-2. I'm going to break it all down. Before I do, hit the like button for me. Just helps get the video out to more people. And hit that subscribe button for me on the road to 2,500 subs. Helps the channel out tremendously. So if you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, I would truly appreciate it. I don't have the blue throwback. Well, I've got the Easley jersey back here. I've got my large and white throwback. So I'm in the throwback mood today. Throwbacks looked beautiful on the field. The way the sunlight hit them too was just perfection. They looked great. I don't think they should be the every game jersey. That might be controversial. I think they're great for 2 to 3 times a year. I don't know if I would appreciate them as much as the regular jersey, but I don't know. Maybe I would. But they looked beautiful on the field. It was great to see them in the throwbacks and brought me back to some of my childhood when that was the jersey, sitting up in the Kingdome watching this team in the 90s and sitting there through 92, 93, some of the lean years in Seahawks history. It looks like we are coming back to some pretty solid football. So yeah, this game was a little odd. First half did not go anything like I intended it, like I thought it would go. Second half, I think the game normalized a little bit. Seattle jumps out 17-14 the first half, jumps out 14-0. Cleveland battles back to make it 17-14. I didn't get a game preview up. I just didn't have time on Wednesday. And then you don't know all the injury statuses yet. So I wanted to wait till Sunday. I prefer doing the previews on Friday. It's one thing if you're doing a video and you're just going through all the games, making predictions. That's one thing. But if you're really trying to break a game down, you really want to know as best you can the injury statuses. Now, sometimes things are just game time decisions, nothing you can do about it. So I wasn't able to get a pregame video up. So I do apologize about that. But I would have predicted Seattle to win, but I would have predicted a very defensive slugfest, like 13-7, 13-9, 14-10, 12-8. Honestly, something weird. If you look at DVOA, the Browns have the 29th ranked defense and the first ranked, scratch that, reverse it. 29th ranked offense, first ranked defense. Cleveland can get after the quarterback. They have so many pass rushing weapons. I thought Seattle would have a tough time with that. I thought they'd have a tough time on offense. And in the second half, they did, but they came out of the game gangbusters on offense. Scored those 2 touchdowns on their first drives to get the turnover. Looks like the defense is going to dominate a little bit. But then somehow, while Seattle's offense is dominating, the Browns' offense is also doing the same thing. So Browns' offense has struggled this year. And then, no Nick Chubb, no Deshaun Watson. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if Deshaun Watson's a better option than PJ Walker, honestly, the way he's played. But their offense starts to get going. They're running the football. The screens were just killing the Seahawks in the first half. And, credit to Kevin Stefanski and company for dialing that up. And they've got a good offensive line, good coach, Bill Callahan, coached that offensive line up well. So I'm not shocked that they had some success. Listen, and you guys know I use DVOA a lot. But last week, the Cardinals came in with the 12th ranked offense in the league. And I said, I do not think this is the 12th best offense in football. Seattle's defense pretty much dominated. The Browns offense, well, I don't think it's great. I think it's well coached. I think it's got some maulers on the line. You've got, Benito, Posick, who's the left tackle, Wilkes, or who is the left tackle? I always forget for the Browns. But anyways, you've got Wyatt Teller in there as well. So you've got some maulers on that offensive line. Like I said, and you've got a well-coached team. You've got some good safety valves with Amari Cooper, David Njoku. So you've got some talent there where, do I think they're a great offense? No. Do I think they're the 3rd worst offense in football? Probably not. I think I could find 3 worse teams. I think at the end of the year, the Cardinals will be worse than the Browns, if that makes sense. So I'm not surprised that the Browns had some success. I was a little surprised they were able to put the ball in the end zone twice. I was a little disappointed Seattle's defense in the first half. Then the second half, I thought things normalized a little bit. Seattle's offense struggled. I'm going to get into Geno. I know some people are really mad at Geno. And listen, I'm going to get into it. This Browns defense, guys, is a really, really good defense. And Seattle put up 24 on them. I know that's not anything out of this world, but they put up 24 points. How many total yards did the Seahawks put up today? Let me see here. Total yards, 362 yards, 6.6 yards per play. Seattle dominated yards per play. They were 6.6. Cleveland was 5.1. I'm not one to come on here and bash refs, but there were also some really crucial calls that went against Seattle. The 4th and 2 that Tariq Woolen broke up, I thought could have been, the flag could have stayed in the pocket. There was a hands to the face on Woolen, or was it Witherspoon? I think it was Witherspoon, that would have been a 3rd and 18. It's a 5 yards and a first down. I think it was Myles Garrett was lined up off sides on the Geno Smith interception, not called. And listen, I'm sure if a Browns fan could come on here and probably point to stuff Seattle did that wasn't called. So I'm not trying to make this a bash the refs moment. Seattle won, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But I do wonder, some of those things go the other way, and maybe this game does look a little bit more like a blowout. Listen, the modern NFL, calls do matter. They affect. They change the game. These offenses can move the football. This isn't the Seahawks going against, a college team here where, yeah, you can have 20 calls. It's not going to matter. Browns are an NFL team. They're a well-coached team. And when they get some extra plays, they're going to make things happen. And yeah, their defense came alive in the second half. It's a good defense. The Browns have the best ranked defense by DVOA. It's been one of the best in the league. And Seattle still found a way at the end to get one drive, one moment to get into that end zone and win this football game. So, that second half, like, it felt awful. And it was. Seattle's offense struggled. They didn't even have a first down until their second to last drive. But the defense did get some crucial stops. And I'm saying this because I know some people are frustrated with the defense. I was too. I went on Twitter. I always say, follow my YouTube videos, not Twitter. Twitter gets a lot. I get emotional. You're in the middle of a game. You're going to say things. And I said I was more disappointed in the defense than the offense at one point. But the defense, I do think, settled down. They held the Browns to 6 points in the second half. A couple field goal drives, went for a couple penalties. They're probably off the field a little bit quicker. They get a huge interception that sets up the last drive. Kind of felt like it. You kind of felt like the defense needed that turnover. They got 3 turnovers overall, and they also had 3 sacks. Like, 3 turnovers, 3 sacks. You held the Browns to 20 points. Like, again, am I going to write home that's the greatest defensive performance of all time? No, but they're still growing and they're showing signs. It's another game. Talked about it, like, I think you talked about it with the Cardinals last week. It was a game that in years past they would have lost. This was a game that the defense would have lost for them a couple of years ago. They would have given up that 3rd and 3 to PJ Walker. They would have given up. Instead, Jamal Adams comes on a blitz. His head gets in there. He causes havoc. Ball tipped up in the air, and Julian Love makes the pick, and Seattle only has to go 56 yards versus probably 89, 90 yards had they just gotten a regular stop on that play. So the defense stepped up when it mattered. And that last drive, 38 seconds left, they get a sack, and they close it out. So their best performance of the year, no. But again, like Arizona last week, again, I think a well-coached offense, not a lot of talent. I think this is a well-coached offense in Cleveland that has some talent. So I'm not down on the defense overall. Again, first half wasn't super impressed, but that's going to happen too. Listen, the Legion of Boom gave up 21 points to Mike Glennon and the Buccaneers in a half. It does happen. And even with this, they gave up 20 overall. That's okay. And they buckled down in the second half. Like I said, they end up with 2 interceptions. Julian Love gets 1, and then the other was Tariq Woolen. That was a weird play because Woolen kind of fell down. Looked like he may have fumbled the ball, but Njoku touched him. 3 sacks. Boye Mafe, 5th straight game with a sack. How great has Boye Mafe been? What a really makes the loss of Nwosu, which I think is a huge loss. I think played a factor. Seattle seemed to struggle a little bit more setting the edge today, and I think not having Nwosu factored into that. I didn't see quite how Frank Clark did. I know he was out there a little bit. Good to have Frank back on the team. Listen, add some pass rush depth where you can. There was one play where I thought he was in there a little bit, but I think it was a screen, so I'm not sure if it was by design. Let's see if Seattle can be active at the trade deadline. I'd like one more piece on that D-line. Like, if the Giants are willing to trade Leonard Williams for a 4th or 5th round pick, I think I'd be willing to do that. I absolutely would. I think this is a team that's closer than people think. The Niners have lost 3 in a row. The Brock Purdy magic kind of fallen off a little bit. I know they don't have Debo and Trent Williams. That's brutal. Not even coming on here saying Seattle's going to win the division. I still would probably favor the Niners. But I do think this team is capable. I do. And I'm going to get into the offense in a minute, but just going to finish up with the defense. Mafe got a sack. Jordan Brooks had the strip sack. And then Darrell Taylor got a sack, which helped close it out. Darrell Taylor is kind of like the closing pass rusher, right? Like, the other guys are kind of the ones that are in there. And then Darrell Taylor seems to get that big sack at the end of the game, which is important. You absolutely need those guys to finish it off at the end. So listen, great defensive performance, no. But overall, Like I'm okay with how they played defensively. Let's talk about the offense. And I know there's going to be a lot of hate on Geno Smith. 23 of 37 for 254, 6.9 yards per attempt. Not amazing. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. The one pick, I will say, I thought Hurst, lineman that tipped it and batted it, that was a tremendous play. Sometimes guys make plays, and Hurst did. The first interception was terrible. There should have been an offsides on that play, but it is what it is. Geno still has to make a better decision. Until that flag is thrown, you never know what's going to happen, right? So you can't guarantee it. It's tough. Like, I'm not going to rip Geno. I still think on this roster, he is the better option. You will never convince me. Oh, and then Geno should have had a pick 6 that was dropped as well. I will say for the record, that was in the third quarter when it was 20-17. The Browns dropped an obvious pick 6. It looked like JSN kind of ran the wrong route. So Geno had some moments. And I will say this year, one thing that was criticized of Geno going into last year was he does turn the football over. Didn't see it much last year, a little bit in the second half. We're seeing it more this year. We are seeing more turnover-worthy plays from Geno Smith. And that could cost him down the stretch. Again, you're not going to convince me to play Drew Lock. You are just not. I do not think for a second that Drew Lock is a better option than Geno Smith. I don't think Geno's played bad enough to be benched. I think you just are seeing some limitations that Geno has. Geno needs everything to go right on offense. That's not a knock. This is not a knock. A lot of quarterbacks are like this. Brock Purdy's the same way. I don't even think Jalen Hurts is a whole lot different in Philly. I think outside of Burrow, Mahomes, and maybe at times Josh Allen, those are the guys that can make things happen when things aren't going right. You don't need everything to go right. And by the way, Mahomes lost to the Broncos today. So not everybody's perfect. I do think Geno absolutely needs a lot around him. Now, I think he's got the talent to do it, especially once Abe Lucas hopefully soon gets back in there at right tackle. But I don't think he's bad either. I don't think that Geno, I don't even think he played that bad today. I know the third quarter and fourth quarter were tough. That's a really good Browns defense. And they put up 24 on them. They averaged 6.5 yards per play overall. Like, they did some really good things on offense. They did. And I'm going to say the same criticisms for Geno that I said. I'm going to say the same criticisms of Shane Waldron that I said on Geno. I think there is just sometimes some inconsistencies. I think overall Waldron called a good game. I do. They came out, like, the first half counts. That's the thing too. People kind of like forget about that and they want to criticize like the rest of the game. That first half absolutely matters. And they were on fire in that first half. The first 3 drives, they were this close, putting up 21 points on the Browns defense. They got to 17 and then unfortunately just hit some snags offensively. And I do think Waldron sometimes has struggled to adjust. Now, I don't know if that's the players not making the plays. I don't know if Waldron hasn't made adjustments. But it does seem like when things go wrong, Waldron sometimes does struggle a little bit. Now, I said that in the last post game. That's kind of an oxymoron because, of course, when you struggle, things go wrong. But my point is that, when something's not clicking and your offense just isn't clicking, how do you as a coach make those adjustments? What do you do to mix things up? And I think sometimes Waldron has struggled with that a little bit. I think Geno has struggled with that a little bit. Now, with that said, I'm hoping that touchdown drive to win the game was a huge confidence booster for Geno. And say what you will, Geno got the team down the field in that last drive and won the game. Won the game for him. 56 yards against one of the best defenses in football, and they scored a touchdown. A lot of us thinking field goal, go to overtime, see what happens. Geno gets him down there. They score the touchdown and they win. That was a great drive by Geno. I do think there's more positive than negative with Geno. Now, do I think Seattle should be looking quarterback in future drafts? Of course I do. I think you should always look at quarterback in the draft. But yes, I think you could look to improve the position. If you can get a young guy in there. I've said it in multiple post-game videos, so forgive me for repeating myself, but I wanted Anthony Richardson in the draft last year. It wasn't negative on Geno. It's just that I do think you could look for upgrades there, but it is not Drew Lock. I'm just telling you guys right now, and I'll eat my crow if it turns out differently, but I don't think Drew Lock is a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's an okay backup that's capable. And we saw him do okay against the Giants. Even there, wasn't perfect, but was all right. I do think Geno Smith's a better quarterback, and I do think we saw more positive than negative from Geno today. Some of the throws need to be cleaned up. There were too many turnovers. Absolutely, 100%. Geno was not division of perfection tonight against Cleveland. And he wasn't perfect last week against Arizona either. But I do think overall Geno is a good quarterback. Now, just the question is he good enough to take Seattle to the promised land? I don't know. I don't know. And that's just my honest answer on that. Um, I do worry about some of the turnover plays. I do worry, like, he got bailed out. There should have been a pick six in this game that probably would have ended it at 27-17 at that moment. Got very fortunate there. But you know what? If we look back at every quarterback, they've all had a pick six dropped this year. You know what I mean? Like, it does happen to everybody. So, I don't like, I think I know, well, I shouldn't say no, but I'm 99% sure Geno is the best quarterback on the roster, no doubt. I don't know if he's the answer long term, but right now I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm going to celebrate a win. And I say that after everything. A win is a win is a win, and you should be very happy when your team wins because life's too short. Life is too short to not enjoy wins. So the Seahawks went out there and they got a W today. A hard-fought W against a really, really physical Cleveland Browns team. That is a tough football team. They are not soft. They are physical. They can knock you down and knock you around and upside down. On defense, they are good. Let's get in the box score a little bit. I'll go over some of the numbers today, and then I will get out of here. Sorry for it being all over the place. I literally just walked in the door 20 minutes ago from vacation, so I'm doing the best I can in a limited capacity here. For the Seahawks, Geno finished 23 of 37 for 254, 2 touches, 2 picks. Again, I think my final point on Geno would be needs to clean up the turnover plays. I think overall, I think I still saw more good than bad. Just needs to get those turnover-worthy plays cleaned up. Will he? I don't know. It may just be part of the game we have to deal with. And luckily, the defense is much better this year than years past. 1 sack. Myles Garrett got to him once. It was a 3rd down and 10 play in the 4th quarter on their second to last drive. And listen, when it's 3rd and 10, pass rushers like Myles Garrett pin their ears back, they're going to get you. Myles Garrett is going to get you. You know what I mean? So it happened. Other than that, man, the offensive line deserves a ton of credit. It's not just Myles Garrett on that pass rush for the Cleveland Browns either. They have a lot of different guys that can get to you on the defensive line. So it's not just Garrett and nobody else. Where, like, you play the Raiders, you can kind of try and isolate Max Crosby. And you go, listen, we can just beat Crosby. We're okay. The Browns can get you from every different direction. So shout out Charles Cross, who I thought did a real nice job on Garrett when he was lined up against him. Damian Lewis played well. Good to have Evan Brown back. Thought Anthony Bradford held his own. Forsyth came out, and Jason Peters played a lot of right tackle. Good to see Jason Peters in there. He looked good from what I saw. Like, Jason Peters is the ultimate professional. He's been in this league for, gosh, I remember being a kid and watching Jason Peters. I feel like I don't think I was a kid. I was in college, but still a long time ago. And I thought he held up pretty well at right tackle. And I believe last time Peters went up against Myles Garrett ate him for lunch in that game. So it was really good to see Jason Peters hold his own there. And it just gives him more options at right tackle. You got Forsyth, Curhan, Peters. I'm really happy Curhan wasn't in there. I think he would have been destroyed by Myles Garrett. I thought Will Dissly did a nice job blocking. Had some real nice blocks. He sprung Kenneth Walker, or was it Charbonnet, on one of the runs as well. And hopefully can get Abe Lucas back. But huge shout out to the offensive line. I don't care what it looked like. They allowed only 1 sack, and that deserves praise. The football, Kenneth Walker, 8 carries, 66 yards. Charbonnet, 5 for 53. Bobo, 1 for 3 on the touchdown. Geno was 2 for -3. I think that's a kneel down. D. Eskridge was back, 1 for -5. Did have D. Eskridge returning kicks. I thought he looked okay back there. I don't mind them trying to get D. Eskridge involved a little bit. That's where he should be good. So, it was good to see them at least trying to get him involved a little bit. But, anything you can take from D. Eskridge at this point is gravy. So if he can do something for you, take it and just walk away and be happy about it. You know what I mean? There's last year of his contract out, he's back. So anything you can get, you'll take. I know some people are going to be critical of Shane Waldron for not running the football more because they were running the ball well. In fact, most of their yards per play outside of the kneel down and the Eskridge negative came from the running game. Walker averages 8.3 yards per carry with a long of 45. I will say outside that 45-yarder, he was held in check all right. Charbonnet, 5 for 53. And I know some people were like, why did they stop running the football? And yes, I would have ran the football a little bit more. Thought they were having some success there. Probably would have ran the ball a little bit more. But you also have to take into account some of the game situations. One of the times people were criticizing was They had that big Charbonnet run. 1st and 10, they ran a little quick hitch route to Noah Fant, a little underneath thing for 5 yards. 2nd and 5. False start, Will Dissly. Well, 2nd and 5, this was that second to last drive of the game where it got finished off with the Myles Garrett sack. 2nd and 5, you might run the football there, but 2nd and 10, you're kind of put into a passing situation. So I'm not saying that was a story for the whole game, but there are little situations like that where they probably would have run the football, but unfortunately the penalty dropped them out of it. So yeah, I'd like to see the running game going a little bit more. I thought it had some success. I was a little surprised how pass happy they got. But a lot of times the old adage used to be you run the ball, set up the play action, the throw. I think the truth is that passing the ball can open up the run game. You get to open up the field a little bit. Then you get a couple first downs through the air. Now you've got to sit back and go, well, now they can run it. Now they can still throw it. What are you going to do? So I think usually when you see teams run the ball is when they really get into a rhythm offensively. And Seattle just could not do that in the second half. They did in the first half, and they probably ran the ball more in the first half. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Second half was harder. And then you also have like the last drive. There's a minute and a half to go. You're not going to be running the football too much on that drive. Maybe a draw play somewhere to catch him off guard. But for the most part, you're going to be going at him through the air. So I don't think they ran the ball as little as some people think. If you just look at the box score, I think you have to take game situations into account there. With that said, I wish they would have ran the ball a little bit more. But yeah, that's you got to look at the game situations too. Receiving wise, Tyler Lockett 8 for 81 and touchdown. Really nice game for Tyler Lockett. Good to see. DK 5 for 67. Geno was like 2 of 8 on targets to DK at one point in this game, but then I think DK really kind of came alive a bit towards the end of the first half and second half. JSN 3 for 36, game-winning touchdown. Fant 2 for 32. Bobo 2 for 23. Charbonnet 2 for 11, and Walker 1 for 4. Really good to see Tyler Lockett have a big game. Felt like Lockett's maybe been a step slower this year. Maybe that's just me. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. But good to see Tyler Lockett have a big game. Nice to have DK back in the lineup, and JSN starting to feel a lot more involved in the offense, and a nice design play for the game-winning touchdown. Seahawks win it 24-20. They are in first place. Again, if you want to be upset about this win for some reason, go for it. Be my guest. You're welcome to. But this team's in first place. A lot of teams, I say every week the Seahawks win. A lot of teams would trade places with the Seattle Seahawks right now. A lot of teams would be desperate to do that. 2 nice home wins. Defense is playing better. Lumen feels a little bit louder. I think a lot of the Lumen hasn't felt as loud recently is because the defense hasn't been as good. So the defense is coming alive. The offense is got some things to clean up, but even when they're not at their best, they still put up 24 on arguably the best defense in football, and they delivered when it mattered with a game-winning drive at the end. The Seahawks are in first place. The schedule is going to get a little tougher here. Really tough game in Baltimore next week. I'm looking forward to it because truthfully, if you're going to lose to anybody, lose to AFC teams. So it's just going to be a nice litmus test for the Seahawks. I hope they win. I want them to win the game. But it's not like, had you lost today 4-3, you don't want to drop to 4-4. It feels like you got to go to Baltimore and win. Now, I'm not saying this like, oh, it doesn't matter, but it takes a little of the pressure off next week. Then you come home from Washington, which should be very winnable. Then it starts getting hard. Then you got the Niners twice, the Eagles, that Cowboy stretch. So it's going to get difficult here for the Seahawks, but I think they're up to it. I do. I do think this team is up to the task. And if you're really mad about Geno, I would look around the league, and I think you'd find a lot of quarterbacks struggling this year. Yes, there's going to be the Mahomes. They're freaks of nature. He's not Patrick Mahomes. That's just not going to happen. But I do think you'd see a lot of quarterbacks playing very similar ball to Geno Smith. So I think clean up some of those turnover-worthy plays, and I think everything is fine. Good to see them in the red zone, right? They scored a little bit in the red zone tonight, which was good to see. The red zone offense has been struggling much better in there. I think 3 for 5 with 3 for 4. That was the pick in the red zone. I don't remember. But at least like 3 for 4 with 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Pretty good red zone offense today. So as much as you want to think about things that need to be cleaned up, they have cleaned up some other things as well. Hopefully Abe Lucas comes back soon and the offensive line is back to full strength. That is all I've got for you guys. Video went a little longer than I anticipated. Great win. Enjoy it. Celebrate it. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. I'm going to be live for the World Series Game 3. So have a great night, everybody, and go Hawks. Peace.